I'm the superintendent of the Bethlehem Area School District, and it's my honor to welcome you to this beautiful fall day to Northeast Middle School for a very special event that Mayor Reynolds will be holding with us. First, I want to have some congratulations and thank yous. Thank you, obviously, to the Bethlehem Area School District Board of School Directors. We have a few directors with us today for supporting our district and helping host this event. I'd also like to thank our local official. I saw Representative Samuelson was here. Thank you for coming. Of course, we welcome Congresswoman Wild's office and all of their representatives. Congresswoman Wild, thank you. We'll be joined in a little bit by Senator Casey and Senator Casey's office. Welcome. And then, last but not least, many of the community partners, personal friends of mine who are part of the BASD community and many times supporting our students and our teachers. It's great to see you here as well. So first, my honor is to welcome and introduce our mayor. Before serving as a long-standing member of Bethlehem City Council and now mayor of Bethlehem, Mayor Reynolds was a BASD proud student at Thomas Jefferson Elementary right here at Northeast Middle School and Liberty High School. He and his administration are very strong supporters of the Bethlehem Area School District community. They frequently incorporate our students into vibrant community events. For example, we have our Halloween parade coming up this weekend, and the 16 Grand Marshals will represent each one of our elementary schools. So that's just great for our kids and great for our community and our city. Thank you, Mayor. With that, and with appreciation for all of you being here, it's my pleasure to introduce our mayor, Mayor J. William Reynolds.
It is wonderful to be here, and yes, we're praying for the great weather for this weekend for the Halloween parade. And as Dr. Silva said, I think it's pretty symbolic about what we're trying to do as a community and as an administration, that we actually have one student from each one of the 16 elementary schools that won a contest as far as what is their vision for the future of the City of Bethlehem. And it's really going to be something that we think is going to be a tradition going forward. We want to welcome everybody here. We are here for a lot of reasons. I want to thank everybody here for all of the work that they do on a daily basis to help people within our community. This is the next big step for us here in City Hall and in our community to do things differently. And we wouldn't be able to do that without also thanking our Congresswoman Susan Wild, and our Senator Bob Casey. And they have done their job. They went, they listened, they know what we need, and they've come back, and now we're able to help people. And I do see, I see Emily Schenkel here from the school board, and Steve Samuelson and Kira Wilhelm from City Council. And one of the things that we are so fortunate to have here in the City of Bethlehem is so many representatives, so many elected officials that understand what this is about. And we are not here at Northeast just by accident. Northeast and the Bethlehem Area School District is about that systemic investment. It's about helping kids. It's not charity. It's not about how do we make sure that this kid just has a place to go for the next 10 minutes. It's about how do we invest in children, how do we invest in our community, and how do we create a city where that promise of America, that idea that if you work hard, you have opportunity, where that is a promise that can be kept. And the Bethlehem Area School District does that better than anybody else around. So we are here to talk about our Community Recovery Fund in the shadows of the Bethlehem Area School District, because the Bethlehem Area School District is the leader in that regard. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk just for a minute or two, then I'm going to turn it to Mason Allen, who's kind of been the architect of this grant opportunity. Then we're going to hear from Congresswoman Wild and Senator Casey. So one of the things that I just want to make sure we understand is that this opportunity that we have, we want to make this permanent and sustainable. All of you represent organizations and you represent institutions and groups that are out there doing the hard work. And this has grown out of our ability to provide resources after the American Rescue Plan was passed a couple of years ago. And we have tried to focus as an administration on not just short-term recovery. And a lot of times people think about the pandemic and it's like, what can we help people to help them stand back up? How do we help them get what they need today? But that's not what this is about. This is about long-term investment in our community with the people, with the groups that are doing the incredibly important work. And what you see here is it's that balancing act for us. It's that balancing act between how do we do this in the short term and the long term. That's not something that I could come up with myself or even the staff members in City Hall. As many of you know, this is part of our larger initiative, We Build Bethlehem, where that theme is, what is it that we need in our city, and how do we make those investments over the long term? And this grant opportunity is designed to fill gaps that are not being met by other grant opportunities that are currently out there, other work that the city does. I know many of you operate in the realm of community development block grant and other kind of sustainable grant opportunities, and that's what we're here about today. And then finally, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have a city council in the City of Bethlehem that approved this $3 million allocation, which will allow us for the next several years to be able to honor this grant opportunity. And I'm going to say something now that I'm going to say at the end. Part of the reason I wanted to get everybody here today was I wanted you to see each other. The opportunity for this to stay as a consistent, reliable, sustainable force will come down to us not just celebrating each other, but advocating for each other. Advocating for this. And a lot of times, people in our space, we don't always work in together. And the power that we have to make this a sustainable, permanent thing that is going to help people in our community often will come down to our ability to work together. We are not in competition with each other. We are trying to help people. And we are trying to understand what the inequities are in society and how we can invest in them as a community. That's what we're trying to do in City Hall. That's what we're doing in our community. And it is just a beautiful, beautiful day for us to be here as we take that next step. Okay, so before I talk any more else, I want to turn it over to Mason Allen, who is one of our City of Bethlehem employees. And none of this work, as we all know, is done by just one person. And the City of Bethlehem is incredibly, incredibly fortunate to have so many dedicated, passionate employees that it's nice to be able to do this when the lights are on. But we know the real work happens at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday or 4:30 on a Thursday when we have people that are like, how do I get past this little problem that we have to be able to help people? So with that being said, I want to turn it over to Mason to make a few comments.
Hello, everyone. So about a year ago, I started my position as grants administrator for the city. And on my first day, the mayor told me that he wanted me to create a grant program completely from scratch. Yeah, easy, right? So with the help from a lot of people from City Hall, including the Department of Community and Economic Development, the Legal Bureau, the Health Bureau, and the mayor's team, we set out to create an equitable and accessible grant opportunity. So when determining eligibility for this grant opportunity and reviewing these applications with our team, it was important to make sure that the goals and values of the Community Recovery Fund were well represented. So we wanted to make sure, above all else, that this was an accessible grant opportunity and that all nonprofits and community organizations that serve Bethlehem residents that wanted to apply could apply. So in designing the grant application process, our team worked to ensure that it was as user-friendly and accessible as possible, and we wanted to make sure that there were no barriers to entry to any organization that wanted to apply. So with our interactions, talking with community partners, getting information about other grant opportunities that exist, we found that grant opportunities, especially for these smaller volunteer-based organizations, are often too long, too strenuous, and just a lot of work. So our main goal was to make sure that that was not the case. So when we were designing this application, we took that information into consideration, and we wanted to make sure that it was as short and convenient as possible. We also took the time to make sure that there were technical support available and that we provided info sessions to anyone who wanted them. And when reviewing applications, we also found it was important to prioritize organizations that were serving marginalized communities. We wanted to make sure that we were serving the LGBTQ+ community, low to moderate income households, the BIPOC community, the unhoused community, and the food insecure communities. So with these values in mind, we spent the past year creating this grant opportunity, and we made sure that it was as equitable and intentional as possible. And we ultimately made the decision to fund 27 organizations this year. So this year, we will be funding organizations and projects that support the following areas: the arts, childcare, climate justice, community centers, economic development, education, food assistance, job training, mental health, public health, and senior services.
Thank you, Mason. If Mason sounds familiar to me, it's because we're both Moravia University graduates, which we are proud of in City Hall. Before I welcome out Congresswoman Wild, I do want to thank again, I know the Senator Casey is here as well. We had an event earlier this year where the Senator was in, where we kind of talked about what we wanted to do with our American Rescue Plan dollars and how we wanted to invest them. When the Senator and Congresswoman Wild passed the American Rescue Plan Act back in March of 2021, it really changed history. It is going to give the resources to communities and to cities to be able to build cities that are grounded in equity and help the people that are helping people. And we cannot say enough. We watch often every day about how Washington's not working right now and about how we are frustrated that we can't get in the same room and work things out and take action. That's not Senator Casey and that's not Congresswoman Wild. I don't think you're going to find two elected officials that listen more, that are engaged more, that are better, genuine individuals, that understand the job is not about themselves. I've had many conversations with both of them, and neither one of them ever say anything about what they need. It's about what we need in our community. So what the people of Pennsylvania need, what the people of the 7th Congressional District need, and we could not be better in the Lehigh Valley than we are with the fact that we have two representatives here that are so good at their job. And with that being said, I want to turn it over to my great friend and one of the reasons we are here, Congresswoman Wild.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, and welcome, Senator. Welcome to Pennsylvania 7. My district, I know every district is your district since you represent the whole state, but we're happy to have you here, and you're here so often. And thank you to everybody who is participating in this. It's a really great event, and I have to tell you that I just said to somebody out in the entranceway that I love my job, and I find it to be incredibly fulfilling. And you're probably sitting there thinking, really? Because if you watch cable news at all, it's a little dysfunctional in Washington right now, and that's certainly not where the fulfilling part of the job is, at least at the moment. There have been times when it's been very fulfilling, like when we got the American Rescue Plan done. But for me, the fulfilling part is what I can do to bring things back to our community. The community that has treated me and my family so incredibly well, where we've gotten so much out of it, and to be able to do work that enables the City of Bethlehem to do something like what we are here to hear about today. And then all of these wonderful organizations that are receiving grants and that work so hard with different aspects of our community. I was going over the list this morning of the recipients, and it just blew me away. It's so varied, it's so diverse, it's just really, so many people are really going to benefit from this. And I'm proud of the City of Bethlehem. I'm proud of the work all of you have done. I think you might be able to come to Washington and teach us a few things about how to get things done. I'm only speaking about the House right now, Senator. You guys are getting stuff done for the most part, not as much as you probably wish you were. But the Bethlehem's Community Recovery Fund that was made possible by the American Rescue Plan, as your mayor said, just makes me incredibly happy. I know it seems like a lifetime ago, but it's been about 2.5 years since the American Rescue Plan, or as people in municipalities call it, ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, passed Congress and was signed into law. And that was at a time when we actually got things done. And we got a lot done, even partly because of and partly in the face of this horrendous pandemic and what we had to deal with. But the silver lining was what we were actually able to get done and how we were able to help our communities. And I can't tell you, every single city, every mayor, every municipality has in some way or another benefited from passage of the American Rescue Plan. The organizations that were chosen to to receive the grants serve such pressing needs in every community. Food assistance, senior services, arts, education, childcare, literacy, mental health, and wellness, all of which are areas, causes that I really enjoy working on and prioritize in Congress, especially when we're able to actually do things. And I won't make any more references to how dysfunctional we are, except to say that I was a little disappointed to find out that I have to go back tonight. I was hoping I was going to go back tomorrow. I miss being here in Pennsylvania 7. We've been kept through several weekends and then done nothing, which is very frustrating. But we don't control the calendar. And right now we're not sure who is in charge of anything in the House. But I will tell you it's very frustrating because the time that I spend back in the district is as important or more important to me than the time I spend in Washington, because that's the time when I get to go visit businesses, schools, people, meet with folks, hear about their concerns, that kind of thing. So when they take away weeks of our in-district time, it's kind of heartbreaking for those of us who really thrive on that. I just want to say one more thing about the Bethlehem Community Recovery Fund, and that is, the best part about it is it's not a once and done deal. It remains ready and available to find additional organizations through future rounds of grants and investments, and I hope that I will be able to continue to work at the federal level, along with Senator Casey and others, to make sure that we are continuing to fund these very, very important projects that actually make a difference to people and how they live every single day. That is what every elected representative should be striving to do. It's not about us, it's not even about our institution, it's about what we are able to do for the people that we represent. And so I'm happy to be with all of you today. I am happy to celebrate this moment. Can't wait to hear it. And on a very selfish personal level, I'm just happy to be here in Pennsylvania 7 with all of you. And with that, I am going to turn it over to our wonderful senior senator from Pennsylvania, Senator Casey.
Thanks very much, everyone. Susan, I'm grateful to be with you. I can't tell you how lucky the people of this district are to have such a capable, dedicated representative. Susan Wild, and I'll talk a little bit more about the work that she's done that involves why we're gathered here today, but on every issue, she fights harder and works harder than anyone I know in Washington. And soon, we're hoping that the House will have, on the other side of the aisle, will get their act together and have a leader so the House can function, so we can pass major pieces of legislation that has to get done. These are must-pass pieces of legislation to fund the government and to help the people of Israel, the people of Ukraine, and so many other priorities. So, Susan, thanks for your leadership, especially in helping us pass the American Rescue Plan. Mayor, I want to thank you for your leadership and for, look, I've been around the whole state since March of 2021 talking about the American Rescue Plan. I'm going to be talking about this bill for as long as I have a voice in the United States Senate. And the reason for that is because a lot of people still don't know a great deal about it. You have a mayor and a team around him that have not simply charted a course and laid out an agenda for investment that's depicted on that slide in all those areas to lift people up, the most vulnerable among us, to make smart investments in the economy here in Bethlehem, in the region. But you also have the benefit of having someone who understands the importance of leadership at the municipal level. So Mayor, I want to thank you and your team. And I was making a list of all the folks who were going to be representing the City of Bethlehem here today. And I know we heard from Mason and Mason Allen, Laura Collins, Janine Santuro, and I noticed that all were women. So Mr. Mayor, thank you for putting in place good leaders who are usually, and this is true in Washington as well, women leaders who are doing that job for the people of Bethlehem. But this presentation today is not common or commonplace throughout Pennsylvania. This is unique. In fact, I think we should do it more often across the state. Too often, legislation passes, like the American Rescue Plan, which was, in a word, transformative. There's never been anything like it in American history. And the impact of this bill will be felt for years, if not generations to come. But a lot of people don't know about it. And I think what you have done, Mayor, is not just put in place a strategic plan, in a sense, for how the investments will be made, but your presentation and your teams of telling people about it is critically important, because too often people don't know. For example, I know that the mayor knows how much the City of Bethlehem got in the American Rescue Plan. It's a little more than $34.5 million. But what a lot of people in this region don't know, because of my vote, and mine was the deciding vote because we needed every single vote in the Senate, and because of Susan Wild's vote, we got the bill passed with not much help from the other side. But here's what it meant just for 2 counties, because Lehigh straddles the 2. Because Bethlehem straddles Lehigh and Northampton, I'll talk about both. Lehigh and Northampton County, just the direct dollars to both county governments, and then a long list of municipalities in both counties. When you add up all that money, the direct transfer of dollars from that bill to those municipalities in those counties, it's $292 million, a little more than that. Separate and apart from that money to local governments was aid to K through 12 education. Every school district in Northampton County, every school district in Lehigh County got a transfer of money beyond what they would get from the subsidy that the state provides every year, beyond what they would get from local taxpayers, and beyond what they would get from any federal sources in a typical year. On top of all that, for the 2 counties, $247 million, just for 2 counties, just for schools. Doesn't count the money to Bethlehem or to the Lehigh County government or Northampton County government. $247 million. And then the one I think that I think we should be, at least I'm most proud of, and I think it should be impetus for us to continue this, is the investment in children, in particular families raising children. We took the child tax credit, which has been around since the late 1990s, and turbocharged it, added a lot more dollars to that, made it refundable so that very low-income families, often low-income mothers raising children, could get the benefit of $430 or $450 every month. But it only happened for 6 months. But in that 6 months, we made a huge investment in the future of those children. What does it mean for Lehigh County and Northampton County? Here's what it means in terms of the number of children. 122,000 children in just 2 counties were eligible. Now you might think, I don't know what that number means. It's more than 80% of the children, in fact 82% and 83% in each county were eligible for that. I could take you to 20 or 30 or 40 rural counties in Pennsylvania where it wasn't 82% of the kids or 83%, it was 88%, 89%, 90%, 91% of the children benefiting from the child tax credit. So the good news is we got that done. The bad news is we couldn't continue it because we couldn't get the votes in the Senate. We were too shy on our side to get it done, with zero help from the other side. So I'm hoping that we can finally have a breakthrough, and we might be able to do it before the year is out, on tax policy, where Republicans will join us in reinstituting a more generous version of the child tax credit, so we can once again say that the United States of America is making an investment in the lives of children that will lower child poverty by 40%. No action by the federal government in 75 years has done more to lower child poverty than this. So we need to continue that. So I'm grateful that Susan voted for this as a member of the United States House of Representatives. And finally, I think it's critically important that people know that when your tax dollars are appropriated at the federal level, that those dollars come back here. All of you and those you represent, and obviously a lot more people, send tax dollars to Washington every year, and you should have a right to expect that those dollars are coming back to make investments in your communities, to make life better for you, for your families, and of course those that you all represent and fight for every day. And that's what this American Rescue Plan was all about. And I'm not even talking today about the infrastructure investments that we could talk for hours about, that will come to Bethlehem, will come to Northampton and Lehigh counties, which will have an obvious positive impact. But I hope that we can get more legislation like this passed in Washington, where we're directly responding to a need, not just once every 100 years in a pandemic, but every year to make investment in communities, to make investments in families. So Mayor, thank you for your leadership, but thank you in particular for making this real for the people of Bethlehem. God bless your work.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Congresswoman. And just a couple of comments. One is, I mean, we've talked for 60 years since the Great Society about how do we end poverty, and what you did with that expanded child tax credit did more than anything else ever has done. And yet, for some reason, we did not continue it. And I think one of the things that you would see from talking to all of these different organizations and all these different individuals is that, children should be off limits. It should be, how do we invest in our children? I think the analogy I used last time you were here is when I used to teach, that kids would just say, if you give me a pencil, I will do the work. And the idea that we have children in our community, that many of your organizations serve, that don't have what they need, is just unconscionable. And this is partly about investing in those young people, investing in those systems. And before we start talking about these groups, last thing I would say is we do talk about investing in infrastructure, investing in roads, water, sewer, but what about investing in people? What about investing in those systems? And when I look around here, I do see people that invest in people at every level, both at the local level. I see our great friend Fadia Halma, who works for Governor Shapiro, that's here as well, pushing for more and more funding for public education. And that's really what this comes down to, is how do we invest in the organizations? And Senator Casey, Congresswoman Wild, I know we talk a lot, but it's really, and I hope you have a minute to be able to talk to all of the organizations we have here afterwards, because they're on the front lines, and they've been serving our most vulnerable populations throughout the pandemic. And we know that systems in America have been broken for a long time. And the pandemic just made that made it very clear to everybody. So, without further ado, let's just start talking, and we're going to run through. I'm going to go through about half of these, and then Mason is just going to run through these. And if we could just hold our applause until the end, and then at the end, if you are part of one of these organizations, I would like you to stand up so we can give everybody a round of applause. Our first grantee is Aspire to Autonomy, trauma-focused and person-centered specialized therapy program that will bring mental health support to victims of trafficking. We also have the Ballet Guild of the Lehigh Valley, the Nutcracker for Students, which will allow students to experience live performances of the Nutcracker and bring the arts to students from all socioeconomic backgrounds. We are awarding the Bethlehem Area Public Library for mental health supportive services, which will fund the addition of social workers to the library staff to support patrons in need of mental health treatment. We are supporting the Bethlehem Boys and Girls Club for teen programming that will focus on creating opportunities at the club for teenage members through new staff and age-appropriate programming. We are here with the Coalition for Appropriate Transportation, Bicycle Cooperative and Bike Safety Program that will continue to provide education related to bike safety and mechanical skills to Bethlehem residents. The Citizens Christmas City Committee, which will provide our South Side and the South Side Greenway holiday light displays, which will provide residents of South Bethlehem with free holiday light displays for all to enjoy. Communities and schools of Eastern Pennsylvania for integrated student support and community school programs that will provide necessary resources to students and families in the Bethlehem Area School District to encourage academic success. Godfrey Daniels for the 2023-2024 programming that will allow them to continue to provide cultural and musical experiences for residents of all ages. The Greater Valley YMCA, the Bethlehem Child Care Center, which will support working families in Bethlehem by opening new quality child care centers. Hispanic Center of Lehigh Valley, the Basilia Huerta Senior Center kitchen improvements, which will allow them to continue providing fresh, nutritious food to senior citizens in Bethlehem. Our Ice House Performing Arts Collective, which will provide community programming that will combine civic engagement with the performing arts through programming aimed to foster a sense of community and appreciation of the arts. ITN of the Lehigh Valley and their Senior Ride program, which helps senior citizens maintain their independence and quality of life by providing low-cost transportation to healthcare and important supportive services. The Kellen Foundation and their food coupon program, which will continue to provide food insecure residents with fresh fruits and vegetables. The Miller Keystone Blood Center, Satellite Blood Donation Center, expand blood donation services to Southside Bethlehem and reach new donors. The Monocacy Farm Project, fresh produce distribution, which will increase production of fresh produce that will create greater food access for Bethlehem's emergency food systems. Moravian University, which will help to fund the Liberty High School Wellness and Resiliency Center, which will expand mental health services by providing one-on-one support sessions to students at Liberty High School.
The National Museum of Industrial History and their capacity building for diverse audiences will support efforts to broaden the reach of their programming by distributing educational materials in both English and Spanish. New Bethany's Choice Food Pantry renovations will support their plans to increase cold storage at their food pantry, which will allow them to distribute more fresh produce to the community. Northeast Community Center's Healthy Produce program will enhance their existing food pantry program by including fresh produce in their weekly distributions. The Pennsylvania Youth Theater's Literature-Based Theater for School Children program will provide students with educational opportunities to learn about literature and theater from professionals. Pinebrook Family Answers, their technology updates will allow them to better serve residents of Bethlehem by providing telehealth mental health services and removing barriers to access. The Preventative Measures Foundation and their community support services will meet vulnerable community members where they're at by providing face-to-face street outreach services and connecting them with needed services. Terra Health Equity's Lifestyle Medicine program will serve families at the Bethlehem Boys and Girls Club and provide them with personalized and culturally appropriate health support. Touchstone Theater's Festival Unbound provides the community with 5 days of free public arts and civic engagement. Valley Youth House School-Based Counseling Program will continue to provide students at the Marvine Elementary School with in-school counseling services at no cost to families. The Volunteer Center of the Lehigh Valley's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion trainings will engage Bethlehem nonprofits in peer-to-peer sessions aimed to create more equitable and inclusive organizations. And lastly, the WYCA's Youth Empowerment Initiative will provide students with after-school support and programming in educational and career advancements to girls and femme-identifying youth in Bethlehem.
So if everybody from those organizations could please stand up so we can give everybody a round of applause. We could not be more fortunate in our community, and the Senator and the Congresswoman both mentioned this, is that we have so many people in this organization, in this community, who care about doing the right thing and care about helping people. And that's difficult these days. A lot of us are tired. A lot of you have been working nonstop for the last several years. And what this program is designed to do going forward is to provide that sustainable funding to be able to help organizations. And the funding that we have now is going to allow us to be able to operate this fund for several years. Our budget address for 2024 is coming up on November 14th, whereas some of you know, we have talked about how we're going to leverage these American Rescue Plan dollars to be able to put the city in a financial position to be able to make this a sustainable thing going forward. But a lot of that is going to come down to the people that are in this room. I think we all know the way the priorities are set within the government comes down to people's ability not just to celebrate success, but also advocate. And we need you to advocate. We need you to send emails, we need you to show up to budget hearings, we need you to talk about how these dollars from Congresswoman Wild and Senator Casey have made it easier to live in our community. So with that being said, I'm going to have Dr. Silva come up for a couple closing remarks, and then we will finish this off, and I know that if the press has any questions, that the Senator and the Congresswoman and myself will be available afterwards.
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations to all the awardees. I would be remiss without mentioning the benefit that the Bethlehem Area School District received from the emergency funds. With the leadership of our board members, President Emily Schenkel, Winston Alozzi, we were able to use quite a healthy amount of recovery funds to renovate 8 elementary schools, use a lot of funds related to mitigating the expenses of the pandemic. We used it for tutoring services. We used it for just continuing mental health supports of students. So that was a godsend, and that was a gift that kept giving and keeps giving to us today. So I wanted to thank both Senator Casey and Congresswoman Wild for that very difficult vote, and Mayor Reynolds for his constant support, as long as congratulations to all those members of the BASD community who were awarded on this beautiful day. Thank you. Congratulations.